Hello everyone, this is Shannon from That's So Pow, and today I'm doing week 20 of my 2021 reads. This week I finished a pretty wide variety of things and really enjoyed that, plus I DNF'd a book. Timestamps and content warnings are in the description box below. The first book that I finished was You Look Like a Thing and I Love You, How Artificial Intelligence Works and Why It's Making the World a Weirder Place by Janelle. This is an absolutely hilarious nonfiction book that does an amazing job of explaining how AI works, including like the technical details, but all in a non-technical manner, just through everyday language and analogies. It is so funny and so well done. And in addition to giving just hilarious examples of AI models being so weird, she does a really good job of explaining the limitations of AI and the problematic applications of it. I thought that this book was so funny to read and just did a great job of making AI very understandable and approachable. I kind of think everybody should read this just because AI is really important in the world, and the way that it's being used behind the scenes in a lot of different applications, it impacts people really deeply. So it's important to understand it, and we're going to see more AI models in more things as we go forward in life. So I think this book was absolutely excellent. Everybody should read it. I have made a standalone review, so that'll be up later this week. I gave this 5 out of 5 stars, and seriously, you should read this. Next, I buddy read Children of Ruin by Adrian Tchaikovsky with Mishelle at Mishelle Lexi. I will link her channel down below. This is the sequel to Children of Time, and I have been meaning to read this for the past year and a half, and finally, because we scheduled a buddy read, I actually read it. This was super gripping. It is very similar to Children of Time. So if you like Children of Time, you'll probably like Children of Ruin, and if you didn't like Children of Time, you should not pick up Children of Ruin. It does continue off of where Children of Time ended, but it's kind of a new era where people interact with a new alien species. This one has kind of this octopus-based species that they're interacting with, and it is fascinating just the way that the octopus species has different ways of communicating and kind of culture values and all these sorts of things. So the interaction kind of cross species is very fascinating. However, this book also goes a little bit into the horror genre. I was a little shocked by just how gruesome some of it got and how scary some of it got. Also, the beats of the story are incredibly similar to Children of Time, so it felt a little repetitive in that way, and the ending felt just a little bit predictable. But even so, this book, despite being, I think, 500 pages or something, was so consumable, so easy to read through. Definitely a fun ride. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished Love Among the Chickens by P.G. Wodehouse. This is a novella that Sush read out loud to me as a bedtime story. He is working through all of P.G. Wodehouse's stories as bedtime stories for me, which means that I fall asleep after a paragraph or two every day, and he just kind of keeps going until we get through it. So it took a little while to get through this, but it was fun. P.G. Wodehouse is somebody who wrote in like the 1930s, and his stories are just really kind of comedy of errors, very hilarious, ridiculous characters, ridiculous situations. This one is about some friends who decide to start a chicken farm knowing absolutely nothing about chickens, and it goes really haywire, but one of them ends up falling in love with a girl he meets in the town that they're in. And it's all about trying to deal with chicken farming and also trying to deal with winning over the girl and her father. It's super ridiculous. All of the characters are kind of unlikable in this one, but unlikable in a way where you know that the author thinks that also that they're all kind of problematic, they all have issues, and it's just ridiculous watching all of them interact. So it was definitely a fun book, very good for just an easy light read. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next, I finished Ripples and Other Stories by Shih-Li Kow. Shih-Li Kow is a Malaysian author who I heard about from Freddie at Sluggish Reader. I will link him below, as well as a review he did for her previous book, The Sum of Our Follies. And I loved Sum of Our Follies so much, so I had ordered Ripples as well because I wanted to read her short stories. And this is the only other book that she's written. It was so good, you guys. It was so good. I really love her writing. It's a little bit darker than the Sum of Our Follies was, but it is so good. It's basically these everyday stories that are kind of interconnected about different people in a Malaysian town. And it really tackles a lot of issues of things like race and kind of inequality and the way that women are treated and things like this, but often in just these really short little vignettes almost. It's just so well done and really makes you feel like you're in Malaysia, if that makes sense. Like it feels like all of this is happening around you. There's also some kind of supernatural elements, things like, like a corpse coming back to life because it has some things that it needs to handle around the house, those sorts of things. It is really, really well done. There are quite a few content warnings for this one, so I will link those below. Just be aware if you pick it up. And I will mention that it is published by Silverfish Books, which is a small Malaysian press. You are not going to be able to get a hold of this book if you try to go to Amazon or something like that. But if you go to Silverfish Books, you can get an ebook for like maybe $5 of Ripples or of The Sum of Our Follies. So I'm going to link both of those below in case you're interested in reading it. That's the way to get your hands on it. Oh, and I gave this 5 out of 5 stars. I think it's absolutely excellent. Next, I finished Ginger and Chrysanthemum by Kristen Giang, illustrated by Shirley Chen. This is another picture book published by Levine Querido, and I'm trying to read all of the ones that they have published. This is a cute little story about two cousins, Ginger and Chrysanthemum, who are very different from each other, but they want to make their grandmother's birthday party special. So they're trying to do things, and their differing personalities sometimes leads to a little bit of trouble and things that go awry. But they come together and work through and use their strengths. So it's definitely a sweet story. The story is maybe just a little bit on the simple side, and the art style is also just a little bit sketchier than I necessarily like, but it was definitely sweet and neat to see a story about two girls who are a little different from each other coming together. I gave this 3.5 out of 5 stars. And lastly, I did DNF one book, which was The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. And I was so sad to DNF this because I had been really, really looking forward to it. And it had a lot going for it. It just also had a couple of things that made it hard for me to continue. So this is a story set in a fantasy world, but a world where also guns exist and things like that. And we're really following two main characters. One of them is a princess in an empire that has colonies, and she's trying to prove herself that she is worthy to take over the throne because currently her uncle is sort of holding it in waiting for her, but not likely to give it up unless she can prove that she has what it takes to be the emperor. So she is going to a colony that their empire has where there's a lot of unrest and trying to calm things down and bring it into the fold. The other main character is a woman who is a soldier, and she is from that colony, but she, along with some other kids, were stolen as children and brought up in the army to be sort of slave soldiers, where they have no choice, they cannot leave. And they come together in this story trying to both achieve their own goals while there's all of this conflict between the colony and the empire going on. This is a story that I think has a lot of really, really awesome discussions about the issues of colonialism, about the issues of power dynamics, about a lot of issues of the way that we try to control other people. It also has some really difficult interpersonal relationships, lots of complicated, very complicated relationships between people. It's a very queer story. The princess is disabled. She was in a riding accident and has a lot of mobility issues with her legs. There's some really cool things that are going on in this story that made me very much want to finish it. But it also had a lot of roughness to it. So I got through 76% of this before I finally DNF'd it, because I do think there's a lot of good stuff going on for it, but it also felt very much like a debut. So it, even though it had great ideas, the execution just felt really rough around the edges. There were a lot of things where certain scenes didn't make sense for the characters to act that way. Certain scenes kind of very jarringly moved to another scene. It didn't seem like the story kind of cohesively flowed at times. There were certain aspects that felt incredibly predictable and very tropey. There were other things that just felt over the top in terms of kind of soap opera-esque actions where one thing would happen and then another betrayal and then these sorts of things. Plus, it also is a very violent book. Lots of gore and lots of people dying, including kind of characters you've gotten attached to. And it's just a little bit too much of a wild ride for me. So I do think that this is a book that other people could completely love. And I know I have heard really good reviews of it from the people who have read it, but it didn't end up working for me. However, I will keep my eye on this author because I think that the core of the story was so good that I want to see what else they write, even if this one was just not quite polished enough, I guess. Not quite there in terms of being where I wanted it to be. Okay, so that's everything that I read and DNF this week. If you guys have read any of these, if you have any thoughts, any recommendations, anything at all, just leave me a comment down below.